Thank you for joining us. My name's Cathy Lemmon, and I'm here with Dr. Isaac Golden, Dr. Raj Manchanda, and attorney Jim Turner to share with you a few thoughts about homeopathy and about things that we can be looking at, things that are very positive and very important to understand about homeopathy and the current worldwide pandemic that's going on right now. The COVID-19 pandemic has taken the world by storm. Many broadcasts and webinars have already been shared regarding this, and I'm sure most of you have taken in many of these. The purpose of this broadcast is a bit unique. We desire to share experience and knowledge about homeopathy in a hands-on and practical way. Homeopathy is a system of medicine more than 200 years old. Regarding today's pandemic, homeopathy has a rich history of being used effectively along conventional medical means, significantly reducing the damage of epidemics and pandemics. Those presenting information in this broadcast have their own experiences, views, and opinions. While we may not agree upon everything, the foundation of all our opinions lays in homeopathy, as established by Dr. Samuel Hahnemann himself, who was born on this day, April 10th, 265 years ago. History records that over the past 200 years, homeopathy has been used with great success against many epidemics and pandemics, including scarlet fever, cholera, diphtheria, yellow fever, smallpox, influenza, and more. Again and again, homeopathy has made its proud yet quiet announcement of effectively helping and drastically reducing mortality rates with these epidemics. These numbers are a matter of record in many books. Today, over 500 million people around the world use homeopathy. This is also a matter of record. What is different today is that we are now in the information age. Since the WHO announced this COVID-19 to be a pandemic on March 11th, 2020, talk about homeopathy and its potential has been reaching more and more millions worldwide. An increasing number of people are learning about this remarkable medical approach and the fact that homeopathic researchers have already been diligently working to implement a solution worldwide. Thanks to social media, more people than ever before know about homeopathy and what it is capable of. This presentation is intended to provide something solid, different, and encouraging for all taking this in to give a quick overview of homeopathy to those with questions about what it is and how it helps, and also to provide you confidence in what homeopathy has to offer, not only for this current crisis, but for general health benefits. Right now, we are working to ensure that once again this pandemic, when this pandemic subsides, and it will, awareness of the gentle yet powerful medicine of homeopathy will continue to spread. Homeopathy is here to be recognized for what it is and utilized as an option for those who wish to choose it, right alongside conventional medicine because it works. So we ask you, and I'll mention this again at the end, if you have additional questions that you would like to be addressed, please submit these to info@hpwwc.org. And at our following presentation, we will work to address these. So again, thank you for coming. And now what I want to do is I want to be sure that I effectively introduce all the speakers who are going to be sharing with you in this presentation. So who we have, excuse me, myself, I'm Cathy Lemmon, I'm a homeopath. I'm a teacher. I founded Homeoprophylaxis, a worldwide choice, or HPWWC, for disease prevention. I founded this back in 2015. I have this drive to bring the knowledge of homeoprophylaxis to the world. I published several papers about it. I'm also a mom of three, and I love what I do. Let me also introduce you to the speakers who will be presenting. We have Dr. Raj Manchanda from India. He is the director of Ayush, the Directorate of Ayurveda, Yoga, and naturopathy, Unani, Siddha, and homeopathy with the government of India, the government of Delhi. He's the former Director General of the Central Council for Research in Homeopathy, the Ministry of Ayush, Government of India. He's a teacher, a researcher. He's opened countless homeopathic clinics. He's a writer. He has a wonderful book that he gifted me when I was in India in January, the textbook on dermatology for homeopaths. Wow, we're very, very blessed to have him with us. We're also blessed to have Dr. Isaac Golden, also a homeopath. Everyone's a homeopath except for Jim Turner, but we'll get to Jim Turner in a moment. Dr. Isaac Golden has been using and researching homeoprophylaxis since 1985 when he designed his first program for Australian parents who were seeking an immunization option. Dr. Golden has written 4 books and numerous articles on this topic and has undertaken research in Cuba and India since 2008. He is currently deputy chair of and research advisor to the ethics committee of the National Institute of Integrative Medicine in Australia. And the other gentleman that we have here tonight is Jim Turner, an attorney. He's his primary care provider since 1970 has been a homeopath. He has a deep love of homeopathy. He is a partner in the Washington, D.C. law firm of Swankin and Turner, which was formed in 1973. He's also a board chair of Citizens for Health, the consumer voice of the natural health community. He's the president of the National Institute for Science, Law, and Public Policy, and president of Voices for Hope, or Healers of Planet Earth. He's an author, a writer. He represents consumer, environmental, and public interest groups, as well as businesses and individuals on a wide variety of regulatory and other legal matters concerning foods, drugs, health, the environment, and product safety. He has served as on special counsels and to the Senate Government Operations Subcommittee on Government Research. He has also been a policy consultant to major corporations in the food, pharmaceutical, and telecommunications industries. I have been very blessed and honored to work with all 3 of these gentlemen. They have each presented at the conferences for homeoprophylaxis, a worldwide choice. He has presented at all 3 of the conferences, the first one in Dallas, the second one in the Netherlands, the third one in India. We're just, this is going to be a tremendous presentation. I really want you to be excited about taking this all in. So let me get through what I'm going to share with you. I will be followed by Dr. Manchanda. He will be followed by Dr. Golden, and the final words will be shared by Jim Turner. And if time allows, we'll have a bit of a discussion after that. So here we go for you. Now, as you are very, very aware, much has been and is still being said about COVID-19. None of us here with you right now want to share with you what you've already heard or probably know about regarding this. But what I want to make sure with my presentation in anticipation of what you're going to learn from the 3 gentlemen who are also here, I want to make sure several facts are understood. First, a little bit about the coronavirus. First, viruses, bacteria, disease. I'm not a virologist. I'm not any of these. I'm just a homeopath. But there are some things that are very important to understand. Viruses, bacteria, disease-causing pathogens mutate. They change. Why do they do this? So that they can survive. What we have today is simply a mutation of the coronavirus. What is the coronavirus? We've known about this since 1937. It was first isolated, then it was found to be causing bird respiratory bronchial issues in birds. In 1960, it was also found to infect humans, bringing on minor respiratory issues. Today, up to 30% of the common cold is caused by a coronavirus. And up until just a couple months ago, a particular conventional medical site that I frequent, I went to it just to look up coronavirus, just to see what it said. And even up to just a couple months ago when I did this, it said quite simply this. It said, quote, a type of common virus that can infect your nose, sinuses, and upper throat. You treat a coronavirus infection the same way as you treat a cold. Get plenty of rest, drink fluids, blah, 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 things that you've all heard. Homeopathic medicines have effectively worked with all the symptoms presenting themselves today. We must be sensible and follow what conventional medicine says. It just makes sense. Wash your hands with soap and warm water. Sneeze, cough into your elbow. Stay home if you're not well, etc., etc. We know this routine. We've got to be sensible and follow these. All things considered, I'll present to you that I feel the biggest issue right now is actually fear. Homeopathy, homeopathic medicine works not just physical, but we also take into consideration emotional, mental issues. Fear is an emotional and can lead to mental issues, okay? Fear in and of itself makes people more susceptible to just about anything. I heard of a woman once whose mother died of stomach cancer. She was this woman that I heard of was perfectly healthy, except that she got herself obsessed with the fact that her mother died of stomach cancer. And stomach cancer, I don't want to do this because I might get stomach cancer, stomach cancer, stomach cancer. Guess what she ended up contracting was stomach cancer and subsequently, unfortunately, dying from it. I have an entire book on homeopathy and fear and anxiety. Homeopathy works well, but what we really need to do is address the fact and acknowledge the fact that fear is in big play with what's happening today. So I want to make sure too that for all of you listening that there is a good understanding of homeopathy and a bit of its history. For more than 200 years, homeopathy has done remarkably well against epidemics and pandemics with significantly reduced mortality rates in every episode where it was used. Episodes of scarlet fever, cholera, typhoid, smallpox, diphtheria, influenza, the 1918-1919 Spanish flu, meningitis as recorded in Brazil in 1974 and again repeated in 1998, leptospirosis, tremendous experience happened in 2007, 2008 that you'll hear more about later. The records of this already shared. I'm sure many of you have heard of this in many webinars and broadcasts, as well as in many books. These records stand for themselves. Um, Many countries today, this aside, let's also look at this too. Many countries today already utilize homeopathic medicine alongside conventional medicine. Germany, Switzerland, India, to name just a few. It will be good, I will present, to have a council to discuss the recognition on an even broader scale of the effectiveness of homeopathic medicine so that this can happen. Homeopathy can be used right alongside conventional medicine in many more countries. Now, just about homeopathy itself, Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, the gentleman whose birthday we recognize on the 10th of April every year, who was he? He was a German medically trained doctor. Okay, he was born in 1755. In the late 1700s, Hahnemann came across the idea that Hippocrates himself presented, this idea of like cures like, similia similibus curentur. He began seeing success with this and documenting record of this, using remedies made from plant, animal, and mineral substances. They're prepared in a very precise manner to get to the energies of of each of these. Then they're put through a proving process to document the effects that they have on healthy individuals. Again, these are noted not just physical, but also emotional and mental. Homeopaths today have a couple of books. And both of these books are thousands of pages long. A repertory is one of these books, in which all these symptoms are recorded. Okay, homeopathy is a very individualized form of medicine. There are thousands of different types of headaches, for example, many kinds of sore throats, and many forms of much deeper issues that we won't get into now. Homeopaths also use other books that are thousands of pages long called Materia Medicas. And what these are books that document each substance and the symptoms that they produce in a healthy person. Homeopathy is a very precise science, which is why today, with this COVID-19 pandemic, Homeopathic researchers have been working very hard in China, in Italy, in India, and many other places around the world, documenting symptoms that they're noting that are being produced. Another key book for that homeopaths use is what is known as the Organon of Medicine, written by Hahnemann himself. This is a compilation of homeopathic philosophies that he refined 6 times through his life. I still wonder if he were alive today, what edition of this Organon would we have now. In his book, there are paragraphs or aphorisms that explain about the different aspects of homeopathy, specifically regarding this COVID 19, aphorisms 100 through 102 and 241 all speak directly about the homeopathic approach for epidemics. Hahnemann speaks about what we call today the genus epidemicus, which in short is determining what it is that is causing the same symptoms in a group of people and building an approach for this with this in mind. Many homeopaths today are working to find a genus epidemicus or a GE for this COVID 19. This will be addressed, I'm sure, by the other speakers that we have here. The homeopathic approach for issues such as what we have today with the COVID 19 has essentially not changed for more than 200 years. Terminologies have, views and approaches have, talking about homeopathy overall. Today, we have many things that weren't available during Hahnemann's time, but his approaches, homeopathic approaches, remain solid. As we grow to recognize and appreciate homeopathy and how it works, we can better appreciate its effect on things like this pandemic of COVID 19. And with that, I want to pass the mic on over to Dr. Manchanda, who's going to speak further. Thank you.
Thank you, Lemon. First of all, I would like to say Happy World Homeopathic Day to all the listeners. Now, if I look at homeopathic sector today and the homeopathic sector during Hahnemann's time, there's a hell of a difference. During that time, homeopaths were conventional doctors, but now we have conventional doctors, we have prescribers, those who belongs to basic researches, and we have prescribers, those who are homeopath, like in India and many Asian countries. If I look at this sector, it is quite diverse sector. There is a lot of diversity. It is relatively less organized sector. With the change of information age, as you have already discussed, we need to be very better organized if we have to move forward in this age. As a result, homeopathy was facing challenges 100 years back when there was a Spanish flu pandemic all over the world, and now again we are facing different kinds of challenges. Looking at some of the things, what is going on in different parts of the world, I would just like to give you some of the views that primarily homeopathy can be used in such situations in two ways. One is the traditional way of using homeopathy, that is by identifying a genus epidemicus, that means a drug or a group of drugs that you have found effective in a small group of patients, those who are suffering from the specific epidemic, specific disease, and thereafter you use that to prevent the same disease in other healthy population, those who are not yet infected. Now, when I look today, the situation, when the pandemic was started in China, we could get some of the good information in the form of case reports, initial about 20, 30 case reports from different districts, and we could identify group of remedies. Then combining this with the traditional knowledge in India, the Central Council for Research in Homeopathy, they identified that their scientific advisory committee worked out, and they identify arsenic album can be the most closest medicine that can work in this situation. And now in India, several state governments and several organizations are using this to prevent and to see that at least the respiratory people should become less susceptible to this disease. But again, there are a lot of questions whether this is the only medicine or there can be other. So some of the groups are suggesting some other medicines also from their own experiences. And in case of genus epidemicus, in now modern age, we need to be this process needs to be standardized. And this is what I discussed in my HPWWC address in February this year only. That and second approach is to prepare medicine on isopathic line. That was also started during Hahnemann time, and that process has now become more refined. That you can develop medicines out of COVID virus, their peptides, and experiment with those biological products as is being done in modern system of medicine in terms of vaccination. So both the approaches are there, but at the moment, homeopathic community needs to be more organized to take benefit of both the approaches. And when I look at, there are certain areas where people have combined both the approaches, traditional as well as the biological product, and they have developed a unique products and that are also being used in different parts of the world. Another very important thing what I see that this pandemic has given an opportunity to homeopath to once again prove that this is the system that can easily be integrated in the conventional setup and can provide additional benefit of less morbidity, less mortality even in such a pandemic situation. So, world over, people are trying to work out this. Liga Medica, LMHI, as you know, is a worldwide organization looking into the homeopathic sector in about 70, 80 countries. They are also collecting a lot of data from different parts of the world and are trying to work out what can be the best genus epidemicus based on the experience of several homeopaths. So, challenges are there, but at the same time, those are being met by the efforts of the scientists world over. Now, if you compare the conventional system and the conventional system 100 years back, when Spanish flu was diagnosed, the virus was isolated 20 years after about 15 to 20 years after the pandemic. But now, pandemic was identified and virus was isolated. Kids are ready to already kids are already ready to diagnose it specifically, and everything is available in 2 months. The only thing they are working is on the specific vaccine. So in this age, even homeopathic community is also required to work in a very organized manner, as well as in a fast track manner. We need to identify all the symptoms of the pandemic and identify traditional medicine, which were used even 100 years back and might be effective even now. And then experiment with those medicines. But that kind of infrastructure is needed within the public health systems of different countries. Only then this is possible. And the second is to prepare medicine out of the biological product, which itself needs a very high quality technology labs where viruses can be isolated and then can be further processed even according to homeopathic pharmacopoeia. So this is a work of actually a very multidisciplinary team of scientists are required to work. In India, we are trying to work with this multidisciplinary team and let us see what comes eventually. People for increasing the immunity against this virus are following a very composite structure that has been guided by Ministry of Ayush, that particularly in Ayurveda, you can add on some of the things in diet, some of the herbs, which are otherwise also being used by Indians They have advised that to take warm water. They have given general advisory which is available on their website. And at the same time, they have said that, okay, from homeopathic perspective, you can take arsenic album for 3 days and that can be repeated during the pandemic for the prevention. So this is going on. But now when the data of all the things will come after the pandemic, only then will be able to say to what extent this was. Groups in India are trying to work out clinical studies on the patients. They are they are staying in isolation or are being treated conventionally. If we can add on homeopathy to these patients and see what are the additional advantages of it. So these are very, very challenging times, and we have to meet out these challenges with a very, very specific and concerted effort. And worldwide community should come together to work in respective areas. So these are some of the initial thoughts I can share with you. And further, as the discussion will move forward, I'll contribute.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. So from this point, let's move forward and turn the time to Dr. Golden, Isaac Golden, please.
It's very appropriate that we're meeting on World Homeopathy Day, which is Hahnemann's Day, because Hahnemann faced in his time a great deal of opposition from the orthodox medical authorities, and homeopathy is facing exact same opposition today. And to me, it's very disappointing that we can't, as serious practitioners, come out and speak as we wish, heal them and treat them if they are subject to this virus. In my own country, Australia, I could be arrested if I publicly say that I have a prevention or a cure for COVID. And I look at other countries, from the doctors there who have been treating COVID, that high doses of vitamin C in helping people recover. Yet, in mainstream media in my country, and from a lot of what I've seen on the internet, that simple advice of an inexpensive and straightforward treatment, which does not have side effects, is being rubbished in the media or simply ignored. And instead, very toxic alternatives are being suggested to treat people with the virus. And even in countries like Cuba, where I have times working with people at the then Finlay Institute who were working on homeoprophylaxis. It's no longer being undertaken from the Finlay Institute, taken from a different body. And in Cuba, they've drawn on their tremendous experience from 2007 to 2014 and have produced a remedy which they can use to help prevent the virus. They are being attacked even by orthodox medical practitioners, non-homeopaths within Cuba itself, even though in Cuba they saw the massive benefit from the great interventions against leptospirosis in 2007 and 2008. And those interventions were so successful that in 2010, when the world was facing the swine flu, which turned out not to be nearly as virulent or as deadly as the present COVID virus. But at the beginning, people were thinking that we're facing a worldwide pandemic. In Cuba in 2010, the Castro government instructed the folks at Finlay to immunize the whole country over 12 months of age, 9.8 million people, against swine flu. And when I was working at Finlay some years after that, and we tried to analyze that intervention, we couldn't come up with a result because there were virtually no cases of swine flu in the country. And because it was not possible to say how many people may or may not have brought into the country swine flu, it was impossible to draw any statistical conclusions. However, the Cubans at the same time immunized the whole country against pneumococcal disease. And we were able to show unambiguously that when one looked at the figures for influenza and pneumococcal disease, there was a dramatic decline in 2010, and the figures went back up again to the normal trend line the year after that. So this is actually a perfect current modern example of what homeopathy has to offer right now for COVID. Because if we introduce an appropriate remedy into a country, the same sort of result that happened in Cuba with pneumococcal disease in 2010 is quite possible in any other country in the world. Now, Dr. Manchanda explained that in India, the CCRH over there, the Central Council for Research in Homeopathy, for whom I have the greatest respect, did a very careful analysis and came up with Arsenicum album as the preventative remedy, the genus Epidemicus for India. What's interesting about the COVID virus, though, is that there is already scientific evidence from orthodox authorities that the virus is mutating. And it appears that the mutations are geographical. In other words, different people in different countries are experiencing different strains of the virus. There's also evidence from these different countries that the symptom picture that's existing in different countries is also different. And this is one problem with the genus Epidemicus remedy, in that Arsenicum album is no doubt the perfect remedy for India, but is it the perfect remedy for Italy? Is it the perfect remedy for Australia? Is it the perfect GE remedy for any country in the world? And so my suggestion, which I published in a free online journal that people can access, it's called www.hpathy.com, HPATHY.com, and you'll see a whole lot of articles there about COVID, and you can scroll down and look at mine. I've suggested the Cuban approach that I learned in 2014 with working in Finlay on their dengue fever complex is also a remedy that should be considered, because it combines different nosodes that are similar to the COVID experience, as well as different genus epidemicus remedies. And if we're not certain about which genus epidemicus remedy is the most appropriate one for a country, we can use a combination remedy like this, which has a broader coverage. The other thing with the nosode, because some homeopaths are saying, well, once we have a nosode, that will solve all our problems. Not necessarily, because if, like flu, we find that the different strains of COVID produce different symptom pictures, a single nosode will not do the job. So as Dr. Manchanda was saying, there is a lot of work being done by homeopaths around the world on these sorts of technical issues involving the best form of prevention as well as treatment for COVID. And we've seen on homeopathic chat rooms around the world many excellent suggestions regarding treatment. With treatment, we must individualize the symptoms that each patient brings to the practitioner. But there is a group of remedies that are commonly found to be of value. And homeopathic communities around the world are learning this. And so when the virus enters a particular community, they'll be best able to respond. So homeopathy has a tremendous amount, as Cathy was saying in the introduction, to offer to both prevent and treat COVID-19. It's a tragedy that it's being prevented from being able to be used in the extent that it could be by orthodox health systems in many countries, driven, of course, by the pharmaceutical interests in those countries. But we have a great deal to offer, and God willing, at the end of all of this, we will be able to look back and bring to the table data showing how effective and how useful in treatment the homeopathic option has been. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Golden. Very, very good. Okay, and finally, we're going to be able to hear from an attorney, Jim Turner, who has had remarkable experience. It'll be very, very good, Jim, to have your take on all of this. So the mic is yours.
Thank you, Cathy. These are very important issues regarding homeopathy. And the main question is that I'm going to address is what is the legal framework for homeopathy in the United States today? It's very important to understand that the law in the United States actually identifies homeopathy as a key part of the medical system. FDA regulates homeopathy as a drug under the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938. From 1938 to 2017, the FDA repeatedly said homeopathy is a unique form of medicine. It's regulated in a unique way, and it did that. In fact, in 1983, it specifically said that any product that was a homeopathic product that complied with the HPUS, the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of the United States, and FDA's good manufacturing practices was qualified as a proper product for sale in the United States. And that was the law as the FDA administered it up until 2017. For some reason, which is still not all that clear, and we're working with FDA to find out, they changed that in 2017 and announced that even though the law hadn't changed, and even though nothing else with regard to the form of the regulation of homeopathy had changed, many more people were using it, and they had some complaints, and therefore they were going to apply the law more restrictively and do the same thing with homeopathy that they did with regular allopathic drugs. And that is call them new drugs and therefore make them susceptible to being removed from the market at any time. Americans for Homeopathy Choice, a consumer group, formed a month after that announcement was made and challenged the FDA, saying that was an improper way to regulate homeopathy, and that what needed to be done was to withdraw that guidance and come up with a new guidance and a new petition. And the organization, Americans for Homeopathy Choice, filed a petition with the FDA. FDA withdrew the guidance and proposed a new guidance in October of 2019, but also rejected the Americans for Homeopathy Choice petition. The Americans for Homeopathy Choice is a consumer group raising a right of consumers to have the choice of homeopathy. The FDA guidance takes that right away in the sense that anytime the FDA wants to, under the guidance, it can take any product it wants to off the market. That is what we are opposing, and that is now very, very much involved in a set of processes at the FDA. There is a new proposed guidance. May 23rd is the day that is supposed to be finalized. We are asking for an extension given the coronavirus problem. Also, we plan to file a new petition setting out how homeopathy should be regulated. But it's very important to understand that under the law in the United States, homeopathy is legal. It is recognized by the federal government. Congress has passed a law saying that it is recognized. There are members of Congress right now who are saying that the FDA needs to remain within the framework of that law. It's very important to understand that once the FDA put that statement out in 2017, a great opportunity was made for homeopathy to clarify its position. One of the main points is that homeopathy provides tools for the FDA to address some of its most significant problems. And we're talking now about legal possibilities. So for example, antibiotic overuse can easily be addressed by people who want to use homeopathy rather than antibiotics for initial primary treatment. Antibiotics are very good for emergency involvement, but they are very dangerous when used routinely for everything. And that's where we had gotten to. The United Nations had declared an international crisis. The opioid crisis is a further example. Opioids can be very good for pain, but they can also be abused, obviously. homeopathy has alternatives that people could use at the early stages of pain that might help them. This has all been presented to the FDA. It's been presented as a compendium, which is on the Americans for Homeopathy Choice. It's a research compendium. Um, it's 20 papers reviewing research on various areas. One of those areas is hospital infections, for example. Many hospitals across the world use homeopathic involvement that helps them keep down their hospital infections. What we're arguing legally is that the law says homeopathy is a legitimate part of the American healthcare system. Americans are seeking in ever larger numbers to want to have that choice. And we agree with FDA that products that are labeled homeopathic, which are not homeopathic, should not be allowed on the market. And we're working hard with the FDA to make that distinction and be very clear that the homeopathic community vigorously, on a legal basis, vigorously says anything that is labeled homeopathic must be homeopathic. It must meet the standards of the HPWWC, and it must be something that does not make claims and do things that are not properly vetted homeopathic claims. So that's the legal system that we're in, the legal process that we're in, and the way things are unfolding, it is a tremendous opportunity to make clear the kinds of things that our other two speakers today talked about. There is a real opportunity for the country and for the world to use homeopathy in conjunction with all the other things that are going on. And there's a real opportunity for homeopathy to make a major contribution to addressing not only coronavirus, but all of the various viral and non-viral diseases that will be coming along over time. And specifically recognize that homeopathy works on the individual and helps the individual deal with whatever's going on in their environment around them. So I think it's very important. Homeopathy is very legal, supported by federal law in the United States, and people should be very comfortable in choosing to use it. And manufacturers that are misusing the name homeopathy should be disciplined by the FDA and are going to be and are being at this point. So that's my view of the legal situation. I hope it's helpful and makes a contribution.
Thank you very much, Jim. Thank you, all of you who have participated. Let me insert here, as far as Americans for Homeopathy Choice, you can visit their website. Their website is homeopathychoice.org. It's a wonderful website, very informative website, and let me emphasize too that Americans for Homeopathy Choice is run by volunteers. It's people, moms, basically put it together. They want to keep Homeopathy Choice alive. Um, so again, let me thank you all for being here, for attending this, for taking in this broadcast. Let me emphasize again too, we plan to return, have another broadcast in probably a week or so. Please, if you have any questions that you would like us to address, any one of us, send these questions to info@hpwwc.org. We will go through these. We will work to address these at the next time we meet. We're looking at probably a week or so, and maybe one of these broadcasts that we do will actually be live. It's going to be wonderful, and I think as we come together, as we get better organized, as we get more confident with what we have with homeopathy, we can move forward, we can help people, we can help the deciding officials recognize what we have with homeopathy and bring it forward. Thank you again for coming.